I'm Jeanette. Standing at the Greyhound station, watching my sister, Lily, board the bus, I felt a mix of relief and sorrow. The air was thick with the smell of exhaust and stale coffee, and the silence between us was almost palpable. The once golden Lily, who used to light up every room, now looked small and defeated, the gloss gone from her posture. It all started when Dad, a hard-working mechanic in his late 40s, leaned into my doorway one morning. His hands were greasy from the auto repair shop he owned. He held out his credit card and a small piece of paper with the PIN written in large letters. "Jeanette, can you order that Rolex watch for me tonight? I had trouble with the website." "Just charge it to this card," he said. I was in a hurry to go to my job at the shipping port. I nodded and set the card on my desk beside the paper, then laced up my boots and rushed out. My job at the port was routine but demanding. That day, there were long-delayed containers, a customs issue that wouldn't resolve, and a supervisor who was impatient with any mistakes. By the time I got home, I was exhausted. All I wanted was a shower and some sleep, but I remembered the watch. I booted up my computer, entered the details, and hit submit. The screen flashed red, transaction declined. Insufficient funds. I was confused. Dad was not a careless man, and this card was for important purchases. I tried again, but got the same message. When I checked the balance page, I was shocked. There were charges from high-end clothing stores on Fifth Avenue, an airline ticket confirmation, and a non-refundable reservation at a beachfront resort. Just then, Lily breezed into my room, swinging a shiny shopping bag as if she had just stepped off a fashion runway. Her designer jeans sparkled under the lamp, and new tags hung from her blouse. She tossed her hair and smirked, "You like? I'm off to Miami tomorrow. Needed a break." I couldn't believe it. She had actually stolen Dad's card, read the PIN, and spent thousands of dollars as if money grew on trees. A laugh of disbelief escaped me. Lily's smirk faltered. "What's so funny?" she snapped. Before I could answer, Dad's heavy footsteps thundered down the hall. The door flew open, and his face was red with anger. "Who stole my $20,000? he roared. Lily froze, her face losing color. The bag slipped from her hand, and tissue paper spilled across the rug. In that moment, I knew the balance in our family had been shattered, and things would never be the same. Lily and I had always lived in different worlds. I was the hard-working one, saving every extra dollar for my dream of starting my own shipping consultancy. I often skipped lunch to put money into an account that I rarely touched. Each deposit was a step towards my goal of helping shippers deal with delays and customs codes. Lily, on the other hand, lived a life of freedom. She spent her nights in downtown clubs, sipping cocktails under neon lights, and rarely got up before noon. Her social media was filled with pictures of parties and friends, and she always had stories to tell. She promised to pay me back, and sometimes she did, but it was always a small amount, as if that made everything okay. Mom would play the mediator, saying, "Your sisters. Money comes and goes. Don't keep score." Dad was harder to read. He valued hard work, but he rarely scolded Lily. When she told him a funny story or hugged him after a night out, any issues would disappear. I was left feeling angry, but also guilty. Maybe I was too rigid, too serious. I wondered if I smiled more and joked around, would they see me differently? But the credit card theft was different. It was not just a missing $20 or a flimsy excuse. It was thousands of dollars on luxury items and a vacation I wasn't invited to. It was clear evidence that the small losses over the years had led to this big problem. That night, I sat at my desk, looking at the card and the piece of paper. I replayed the morning in my mind. Dad had trusted me with his card, and I had left it out. I remembered Lily poking her head into my room, saying she needed my charger. She had lingered longer than usual, her eyes darting towards the desk. The evidence was right there on the screen: airline confirmations, hotel reservations, and boutique purchases, all charged to Dad's card. 2 airline tickets were in Lily's name, scheduled for the next morning. I was filled with a mix of anger and disappointment. It wasn't just about the money. It was about the betrayal of Dad's trust and the way she had made it seem so easy. She had walked into my room, taken what wasn't hers, and built a fantasy weekend on the foundation of Dad's hard work. When Dad confronted Lily, she tried to defend herself. It wasn't my fault. The card was just sitting there and the pin was written down, she said. But Dad's eyes turned to me for an answer. I handed him the printed receipts, each with a timestamp. I was at the port all day. Every charge was made when I was gone, and they're all in her name, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Lily's smile faded. You're just twisting it. I thought it was your card, and I figured you wouldn't mind after all the money you've saved, she said. Dad's face hardened. For years, he had laughed off her stories and ignored my complaints, but now the evidence was undeniable. Mom appeared from the kitchen, drying her hands on a towel. What's happening? She asked, looking confused. Dad handed her the receipts, and she read them silently, her lips tightening. For the first time, there were no easy excuses. Lily tried again, softer this time. Dad, it was just a mistake. I'll pay it back. But no one moved to protect her. The air in the hallway felt different, as if the ground had shifted beneath us. The house was tense for 2 days. Dad barely spoke at dinner, and Mom walked around carefully, as if one wrong word could start another fight. Lily shut herself in her room, avoiding me. On the 3rd night, Dad called us to the living room. He stood in front of the fireplace, holding the credit card statement. His voice was calm but firm. I won't press charges, but you stole $20,000, Lily. You're going to pay it back. Lily crossed her arms. How do you think I have that kind of money? I don't just have it lying around. Dad replied, you're going to work. Every paycheck, every tip, every bonus will go towards this debt until it's paid off. And Jeanette will help draft an agreement. I swallowed hard and nodded. That night, I sat at the kitchen table, writing out a repayment plan that would take years to complete. When I handed the papers to Dad, he read every line and then slid them to Lily. She skimmed them and muttered, this is ridiculous. You're treating me like a criminal. Dad replied, you treated us like fools. Now you'll make it right. After a long moment, Lily signed the papers. Dad folded them and put them in an envelope, as if closing a vault. Lily got a job at a warehouse. Dad drove her there on the first day and waited until she went inside without smiling or waving. The first week, she came home with blistered hands and a sour expression. She complained about her supervisors and co-workers. By the second week, she started arriving late, blaming traffic. I noticed pieces of her new wardrobe disappearing. I saw one of her blouses in a second-hand shop window. She was selling her trophies to cover her basic expenses, while the rest of her wages went towards paying off the debt. Her social life also faded. Her friends stopped inviting her out, and the pictures of parties on her social media stopped appearing. Mom, who had always defended her, no longer rushed to her aid. When Lily complained about the unfairness, Mom just pressed her lips together. One Tuesday, Lily came home before noon, carrying a folded letter. Dad read it and set it on the table. You're out of chances. Find new work immediately or leave this house, he said calmly. Mom nodded in agreement. Your father's right. We can't keep pretending this isn't what it is. I offered her a job at the port as a clerical assistant and told her about a woman in Brooklyn who rented rooms cheaply. But Lily was angry. You'd kick me out too, she said. I replied, I'm not kicking you out, but I'm not paying your bills. You need a plan. The night before she left, Lily moved around the house quietly, packing her things. I sat at the kitchen table, listening to the sounds of her packing. In the morning, Dad drove us to the Greyhound station. We stood in silence as Lily boarded the bus. Mom finally broke the silence. I should have seen it sooner. I made excuses, thinking loving her meant shielding her. But maybe I only made it worse. Lily gave a faint nod and climbed the steps. The bus doors closed with a hiss, and the engine rumbled as it pulled away. We watched until it became a gray streak in the traffic. Weeks passed, and the house settled into a new rhythm. Dad started asking about my day at dinner. One night, after I told him about a successful shipment, he said, "You've never failed me, Jeanette." I should have said that sooner. Mom started volunteering at a financial literacy clinic. She came home with pamphlets and said, "I want to make sure no one else lets love blind them to the truth." As for me, I finally signed my first client for my consultancy. I rented a small office in Brooklyn, overlooking the port. The repayment contract still sits in my desk drawer. It's not a reminder of Lily's failure, but a proof that boundaries are important. With that lesson learned, I'm steering towards a new future.